Okay, so those steps were combine your numerators. Sorry, I had to pause the video. Combine your numerators, factor if you can, and then you need to cancel if you can, or reduce. If you rather write the word reduce instead of cancel, you may do that. On the next type of problems, they are not going to have a common denominator, so they're going to go a little more slowly. This is very different from the above examples. You will have to pay, that should say so. So you're going to have to pay close attention to the different types of steps. On these problems, you need to factor the denominators first, okay? If they're not a common denominator, you need to factor them first if possible. Let's look at problem 3. Notice in problem 3, these are monomials, aren't they? When we have monomials, we don't have to factor, and that's good news. Alright, I do not have a common denominator, but I can get one. My common denominator will be, it's the least, you guys remember these? Least common multiple? What's the least common multiple between 6 and 2? In other words, what does both 6 and 2 go into? That would be 6. Now, what's the least common multiple between 6 and x squared? That would be x squared. So my common denominator is my least common multiple, which in this case is 6x squared. Now I'm going to get a different color. So if you want to get a pen or something, you can kind of see the difference if you use colors. I think it helps. What is this denominator missing in order to become a 6x squared? It's missing an x, right? Well, if the bottom needs an x, the top needs an x. Now what is the 2x squared missing to become a 6x squared? It's missing a 3. So the top needs a 3. So watch how we're going to write the second step here. I'm going to put my common denominator that I found on the bottom, 6x squared. And on the top, I'm going to do 5x plus 3 times 3 is 9. That doesn't factor, it doesn't reduce, so that's my final answer. Let's try this one more time. Let's try to find, this is not a common denominator, it is a monomial. The denominators are monomials, so we don't have to factor. You see all these steps you need to go through in your head? So what you need to do is find your common denominator, which is your least common multiple. The least common multiple between 7 and 3, they both go into 21, and y to the 4th and y squared would be y to the 4th, okay, because they both go into y to the 4th. Now you need to check what's missing. That's your question now. What's missing? In order for 7 to be a 21, I need a 3, and I don't need any extra y's. So I do a 3 on the bottom and a 3 on the top. Now, what does 3 need to be 21? A 7. And what about the y squared? It needs an extra y squared. So I do 7y squared on the bottom and on the top. When I carry this over, I put 21 y to the 4th on the bottom, and I'm going to put my numerators together now. 3 times 3 is 9. 7 times 2 is a positive 14, and that had a y squared. This doesn't reduce, it doesn't combine. The only thing we could do is we could put it in standard form and just put the 14y squared before the 9. And that's it. As we move on to problem 4 and the rest of the notes, I'm going to go ahead and take a break and start a new video.